ADHD can be really hard, and I don't want you to think this video is one of those toxic positivity things, because I do want to acknowledge that it can be really hard. There are things that we do find really hard, but it's also pretty great, and there are a lot of things that are fantastic about it, and a lot of reasons why those of us with ADHD are just brilliant. And I don't think we give enough attention to that in the community. So today I want to put together a video of 9 reasons why I think having ADHD is great. So before we get into this video, I want to introduce myself. If you don't know me already, I am Lee. I am an ADHDer myself, and I was adult diagnosed pretty recently, actually. I'm also a leadership coach, and I specialise in helping grow the careers and businesses of people with ADHD, autism, other forms of neurodivergence, because I genuinely think people who are neurodivergent are great, and I really want more of the world to see and recognise that. I'm also a big believer in your strengths being the thing to focus on, because your strengths are what make you amazing, what makes you grow, and where we get the best out of you. So this video is going to be all to do with talking about the strengths of having ADHD, and I'm really excited to get stuck into it. I do want to take the time before I dive in to acknowledge that having ADHD isn't easy, and it can be really frustrating at times. There are times when I can't bring myself to put the laundry away, or I can't tidy my desk, and it's really frustrating. And I know the reason why I can't do these things is because of my ADHD, and that makes it more frustrating in a way, not less frustrating. So it is hard, but it can also be absolutely amazing. And I also don't want you to think that I'm telling you not to ask for accommodations. If you need accommodations to help you manage your ADHD in life, in work, you should absolutely ask for those accommodations. But perhaps it's a bit easier to ask for those accommodations if you can also say, but here are the benefits as well. With that acknowledgement out of the way, here we go. 9 reasons why I think ADHD is amazing. Reason number 1, we are really funny. I genuinely believe we are absolutely hilarious. I'm sure there are so many comedians out there that have ADHD, and actually part of the reason why I was compelled to make this video is because there's so much hilarious content out there about the struggles of ADHD, and I flick through it and I laugh at it all because we're just very funny. I do have some reservations though, because when we consume so much of this content that's negative about ourselves, we sometimes internalize that a bit too much, and it affects how we think about and feel about ourselves. I recently put together a 2-part series on self-perceptions and our thoughts and what to do about them. So if you haven't seen that, feel free to click on the video link and watch that now for some more thoughts on that, and then come back here and find out the other 8 reasons why ADHD is great. But that same sense of humour that makes these jokes about executive function and rejection sensitivity, that's the same sense of humour that cheers our friends up when they're down. That's the same sense of humour that bonds a group together by bringing in shared jokes and shared laughter. There's something magical about ADHD humour, and I'm so blessed that I get to be part of that. And so blessed that my friends do enjoy my sense of humour as well. Thank you so much, friends. Number 2, we are entrepreneurial. There are so many aspects of ADHD that lend themselves to entrepreneurship. The first one of them is our love of learning. We have an interest-based attention. So that means if something interests us, we get deep into it and can learn lots about it in a short space of time. And that enables us to learn so much of the skills that we need for entrepreneurship, because if we're interested in starting a business, we're going to pick up those nuggets and put them into place of all the things we need to learn in order to do it. We're also amazing problem solvers, and I am going to come into that in a point of its own, but that means that we're able to think of solutions that others can't think of, see gaps in markets, or just find our ways to get around problems that others might not think about. All super useful skills in entrepreneurship. We're also known for having an impulsivity trait. Mine is not actually that strong, but I've still dived in and started my own businesses. And it's that willingness to take risk which you need in a business that really means that ADHD suits entrepreneurship. And in fact, the statistic is that people with ADHD are 300% more likely to start a business. And if you're wondering where that statistic comes from, it's from the Da Vinci Method by Garrett Laporto. So with all these things combined, you can kind of see why we have a tendency or a draw towards entrepreneurship. Even if it's not starting our own business, it's maybe being entrepreneurial in the way that we act within our existing careers. Number 3, we go through hyperfixations. And if you don't know what a hyperfixation is, it's an intense burst of interest in a particular subject that can last any period of time from an afternoon to maybe a few months or maybe slightly longer. And in that time, we get super intensely interested in that topic. We go deep, we learn all about it, we almost obsess over it in some cases. And as we're doing this, we're collecting information, and we're collecting that information across all of our hyperfixation. And so we end up with knowledge across multiple domains that can actually be quite in-depth and detailed, but also allows us to make connections between these different domains that other people might not have thought of because they haven't dived as deep as we have. These pockets of overlap of these oddball pieces of information we have are really where the space for innovation comes from. Innovation comes from taking different ideas and merging them together in a new creative way. And so by having this wealth of knowledge from different places, we spot more opportunities for innovation. Number 4, speaking of these hyperfixations and different interests, I think having a lot of different interests makes us interesting people. We are able to talk about such a wide variety of topics. We might meet someone new who tells us about a cool hobby that we dived into and scratched the surface of a few years ago as part of a hyperfixation. And so we can bond with that person and speak about their hobby in a way that's really exciting and makes us really interesting. It also means that we have interesting anecdotes and stories. The one I always tell is when I got into pro wrestling for 6 months, and every Saturday was in a dingy wrestling gym under a railway arch, practicing suplexes, jumping in and out of the wrestling ring. And most people have not had that life experience, and most people would not expect that life experience from me. So I always get a lot of excited and interested questions when I talk about that period of my life. The fact that we pursue these topics with so much enthusiasm and so much passion means that that actually comes across from us. When you get someone with ADHD talking about something that they are interested in, the excitement, the enthusiasm just radiates off them, and it makes them quite captivating to watch as well. Number 5, there have actually been studies that show that if you have a person with ADHD in a group, then the group becomes better problem solvers. I'll link the article down in the description so you can read a bit more, but the gist of the study is they got together groups of students from middle school in the US, I believe. These groups contained students who are considered neurotypical. Outside of the few control groups, all of the other groups contained a student that exhibited ADHD symptoms. And note that these were exhibited symptoms, not diagnosed, because they didn't want the presence of potential medication to interfere with the study. So they sorted the students into these 2 groups. Control group or neurotypical, and then the groups of ADHD students as well. The groups themselves were given 2 problems to solve over the course of the time period of the study. And what they found is super interesting, because the groups with an ADHD presenting student, they got distracted, they went off topic a lot more, but actually the vast majority of them solved both problems. The control groups, none of them were able to solve both problems. In fact, it was 88% of the groups with a student with ADHD symptoms managed to solve both problems. This is huge. This difference has a 1 in 10,000 chance of happening just by chance. And so it's statistically significant. Having people with ADHD in a group makes the group better problem solvers. In my opinion, part of the reason why we're such good problem solvers is because we live in a neurotypical world that doesn't always cater to us. So we're having to solve problems on a daily basis to just get by in the world and get past the things that we find difficult. So of course we've got great problem solving skills and we can put them into practice elsewhere. Number 6, we have so much energy, excitement and enthusiasm, and it is infectious. It really is. I mentioned earlier how much I love hearing someone with ADHD talk about what they're passionate about, because the excitement radiates off them, but it also brings people with us. I have a story of when I was 13 years old. I wanted to enter a band competition, but I didn't have a band. But I had a lovely group of friends who were interested in music. None of them played music, a few of them sung a bit, but they were interested. And to this day, I'm not sure how I pulled it off, but somehow I got these 5 or 6 wonderful friends to come and form a band with me, learn a few songs, and go into this band competition. And they came with me because I was so passionate about it and so excited and enthusiastic that they wanted to join in. And I'm really proud of being able to bring together that group of people like that to this day. As I mentioned, our passion shines through and allows us to bring people with us. And I personally think that makes for fantastic leadership, because people aren't following you just because they have to. They're following you because they're excited, they love your enthusiasm, they see your passion, and they want to join you on this journey. Number 7. I'm always a little bit reticent to talk about hyperfocus because I think there are lots of misconceptions around it. I once read an article that was talking about reasons to hire people with ADHD that kind of said, get them to hyperfocus on this. If they choose to hyperfocus on this, they'll be fantastic employees. And my response was, I can't choose to hyper-focus on things that don't interest me. We're not amazing employees because we can hyper-focus, because we can't do that at will all the time, if at all. But our hyper-focus is amazing for getting things done. When we are genuinely interested and we get into the zone, we get into the flow, we can get so much done so quickly. It does have the downside that sometimes we forget to eat, and so I wouldn't recommend it on a regular basis if you can prevent it. But going into hyperfocus when we have the time, the space and the project too is an amazing feeling, and the satisfaction you get out of completing something when you've spent a week straight hyperfocusing on it in all your spare time, it just doesn't match any other level of satisfaction. Number 8. We are exactly who you want in a crisis situation. One of the features of ADHD is a deficit in dopamine. So our brains can't get enough dopamine, and so we look for it by pursuing things that we're interested in. But another way we can get dopamine is through deadlines, through chaos, through a crisis. And so when a crisis occurs, or when there's lots of high pressure, there's a last minute deadline, our brains kick into work mode. We manage to stay calm, we manage to execute, and we manage to get things done because that is giving us the dopamine that our brain needs. So when people are panicking, I've got my head screwed on. I don't panic easily, I don't get freaked out easily. I'm focused on getting done what needs to get done, and people really appreciate a calm head in a crisis. And lastly, number 9, we think differently. There's been so much of a push for diversity of thought lately, of innovation, of trying to get different experiences in the room. And one of the beautiful things about ADHD is that we do just think differently. And if we know that diversity is important in running businesses, in leadership, in all those aspects of life, then this thinking differently is a really special trait that we have and really valuable in our careers and in our businesses. We should be proud of that different thinking because that opens up so much innovation and so many opportunities just from the way our brains work. So that's it, that's my 9 points on why I love ADHD. I think we should be talking about this a lot more because not only does it make us feel a bit better about ourselves to recognise reasons why we're great, but I also think it's important for the workplace, for society as a whole, to recognise that ADHD is not a burden, it's a difference. Yes, some things are harder, but there's also some things that are amazing as well, and we need to teach society and workplaces to value those bits of amazing so that we can make the world a better place for people with ADHD and neurodivergence in general. It also makes it easier for us to ask for accommodations because we can say, yes, we find this really hard, or yes, I'm struggling with this, but if you help me with this, you can get all this good stuff out of it. Then we don't have any of that feeling guilty or feeling awkward or whatever it is about the accommodations. It's just a thing we need, just like I need these glasses to see. So if we can highlight our strengths, then it makes asking for accommodations just feel a little bit easier. So that's all we have time for today. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments. I'm going to continue making videos on neurodiversity, on leadership, on entrepreneurship, because I'm really enjoying them. And if you'd like to see more, hit the subscribe button so you can see them too. I've really enjoyed particularly making this video because it's something that I'm super passionate about. So I really hope you enjoy it. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.